Hello everyone. Today, I am going to share with you a little-known surprise about the great scientist who saved mankind, Louis Pasteur. What do you think of when you hear the word Pasteur? Milk pasteurization? Vaccines? That is true, but in fact, there are many interesting episodes hidden in his life that you won't find in textbooks. For example, he aspired to be a painter in his youth and was so obsessed with asymmetrical crystals that he bet his life on them. He also experienced the deep sorrow of losing his beloved children to infectious diseases, an experience that further strengthened his passion for research. Today, we are going to get to know the surprising side of Pasteur. By learning about his life, you will discover that the benefits of modern medicine that we take for granted were born from the passion and suffering of a single scientist. So, let us begin the untold story of Pasteur. Chapter 1. Pasteur the Artist. Pasteur's first passion in life was actually not science, but art. Born in 1822 in Dole, France, he was fascinated with drawing from an early age. He was especially good at portraits in pastel. A portrait of his mother that he painted at the age of 16 still hangs in his birthplace in Arbois. The meticulous detail of the painting reveals the young Pasteur's keen eye for observation and artistic talent. In fact, while still a student, Pasteur earned a small reputation as a portrait painter in the town of Arbois. He earned money by painting portraits of his neighbors, and some of his family members still keep his works in their homes. Notably, this artistic talent was later put to great use in scientific research. For example, in the study of crystals, his extraordinary powers of observation to discern minute differences played an important role. His colleagues at the time described Pasteur's eye as precise as a microscope. He was also known for his precise sketches in his laboratory notebooks. These sketches, which clearly record the shapes of bacteria and crystals, are referred to by modern scientists as important research materials. Pasteur later said, "A scientist needs an eye for detail and a hand to record it accurately." It could be said that his experience as an artist laid the foundation for his career as a scientist. Chapter 2. Obsession with left-right asymmetry. Pasteur's true calling as a scientist began with his obsession with left-right asymmetry. In 1848, as a young 26-year-old researcher, he made a startling discovery while studying tartaric acid crystals. He discovered that there were two mirror image forms of tartaric acid crystals that had the same chemical formula. This discovery shocked the chemical world of the time. Even more shocking, however, was Pasteur's own fascination with this discovery, which led to an unusual obsession. Every day, from morning to night, he spent hours in his laboratory, examining thousands of crystals under a microscope. He sometimes forgot to eat, and even when his assistants called out to him in concern, he would say, "Just a little more, just a little more." His colleagues at the time criticized his research as a waste of time with no academic value. They could not understand how studying the differences in crystal shapes could have any practical value. But Pasteur was convinced. He believed that the asymmetry of nature is the key to understanding the nature of life. In fact, this research became the basis for later stereochemistry and opened up a new field of research, the structural analysis of biomolecules. Of particular interest are the words from his research notes. Nature favors asymmetry. Nature favors asymmetry. Life is asymmetry itself. This intuitive insight has become an important concept in modern molecular biology. Even more amazing is the fact that Pasteur was able to tell the difference between crystals with the naked eye when he classified them by hand. He was using pure observation to perform a task that today is done with sophisticated analytical instruments. Chapter 3. Genius learned from failure. Although a great scientist, Pasteur's research life was not smooth sailing. Of particular interest is the episode of fortunate failure in the development of a vaccine for chicken cholera. In 1879, Pasteur was working on a chicken cholera strain. Before the summer vacations, he went on vacation, leaving his assistant in charge of the culture medium, but the assistant neglected the medium. When he returned from vacation, he conducted an experiment in which he inoculated new chickens with the old cultures. Surprisingly, the chickens did not get sick. Furthermore, they did not get sick when injected with a fresh strain of the pathogen. From this failure, Pasteur created the revolutionary concept of attenuated vaccines. His famous statement, "Only to a prepared mind does chance discovery come," was born from this very experience. In his research on anthrax, he failed repeatedly because he could not reproduce his experiments. It is recorded that he was so distressed that he could not sleep at night because his experiments did not work at a time when he had promised to conduct experiments in public. However, Pasteur never gave up. He carefully analyzed the causes of his failures, sometimes starting his research all over again from the basics. This tenacity ultimately led to his groundbreaking discoveries. Chapter 4. Tragedy strikes the family. The deepest shadow cast over Pasteur's life was a family tragedy. He had 5 children, 3 of whom he tragically lost to infection. Jean, his eldest daughter, died at the age of 2, Cécile at 9, and Camille, his beloved daughter, at 12, all from infectious diseases for which there was no cure at the time. Camille's death in particular left Pasteur deeply traumatized. Camille was a bright, intelligent young girl who showed great interest in her father's research. As he watched her suffer from typhoid fever, Pasteur was devastated by his inability to do anything about it. This experience further strengthened his obsession with fighting infectious diseases. "If my research can save even one more child's life," he vowed. With this pledge, he became even more devoted to his research. His wife, Marie, was also a great support. She continued to encourage her husband, saying, "If your research saves other parents' children, it will give meaning to our children's lives." Sometimes he would spend days in the laboratory and never return home. But Marie never complained and continued to support her husband's research. In his notebooks, Pasteur wrote, "Without the understanding of my beloved wife, this research would not have been possible." Chapter 5. The fight against rabies. Pasteur's greatest challenge in life was his fight against rabies. In 1885, an event would change his life forever. Joseph Meister, a 9-year-old boy, was attacked by a rabid dog and brought to Pasteur. At the time, rabies was a dreaded disease that was 100% fatal. Pasteur had already developed a vaccine through animal experiments, but it was not yet approved for human use. However, with the boy in front of him, he was faced with a critical decision. If he does nothing, certain death awaits him. But if he tries an unfinished treatment, he could hasten the boy's death. Pasteur faced this ethical dilemma during sleepless nights. Eventually, he decides to treat him. During the 13 days of treatment, Pasteur stayed at Meister's bedside every night, taking his temperature and monitoring his condition. Miraculously, the boy made a full recovery. This success made Pasteur's name famous throughout the world. However, he himself called it his most dreadful week as a scientist. In later years, Meister volunteered to work as a gatekeeper at the Pasteur Institute in gratitude to his benefactor. He continued to protect the institute for the rest of his life. His presence was living proof that Pasteur's research actually saved people's lives. What did you think of Pasteur's story as presented in this issue? His life was filled not only with a passion for science, but also with a love of art, family, and a desire to contribute to humanity. His research defied the conventions of his time and was sometimes heavily criticized. However, it was his original point of view and tenacious research attitude that laid the foundation for modern medicine. It is said that shortly before his death, Pasteur said, "Science knows no borders. Science has no borders, but a scientist has a homeland." These words beautifully express the universality of science and the individuality and emotions of those who pursue it. We hope that through this video, you have discovered a new fascination for the scientist Pasteur. If you like this video, please subscribe and like our channel. See you in the next issue.